Wes Mitchell, GamecockCentral.com here with a Gamecock Central podcast, quick hit, talking commitment of four-star athlete slash cornerback Jamyest Williams from Grayson High School, a kid that actually previously played at Archer High School, but is going to play his senior year at Grayson, where they're going to play on national TV tonight on ESPN2 as I'm recording this on Saturday afternoon. Obviously, big pickup for South Carolina. Their fourth straight four-star pickup, if you include going back to TJ Moore, then, of course, Hamza Naziruddin, and then MJ Webb, the four-star defensive lineman that's also from Georgia. You know, just a little bit of momentum continues to build on the recruiting trail for South Carolina as Will Muschamp, Travaris Robinson, and Brian McClendon sort of team up to land basically what I think a lot of people who really have followed Jamyest Williams throughout his career would say is one of the pound-for-pound best players in the country. You know, you look at him, obviously, the big knock on him is his size. He's only about 5'9", 175, 180 pounds, but he makes up for that lack of size with just an outstanding just physical mentality. He's a kid that's going to come up. He's going to man-press you. He plays with an attitude. He brings a lead-by-example type mentality to the field, and frankly is the type person that South Carolina, I think, has lacked in their secondary ever since DJ Swearinger, moved on to the NFL. So I think you look sort of as someone to compare Jamyest Williams to, and not saying that they're the same on the field as far as their ability and the way they play the game, but as far as their mindset, the way they approach football, the way they work off the field, and the way they sort of try to challenge their teammates, I think that's a good comparison. And I think that's the type of leadership South Carolina wants. Obviously, they want to add guys with length to the secondary as well, which I think they got with Hamza Naziruddin. But, also you got to have pure cover guys, and I think that's what Jamyest Williams is. He's someone that, we've got him listed as an athlete on Rivals.com, and he's someone that can play all over. I think, especially in high school, very, very capable on the offensive side as well, but in college, you're going to see him play multiple positions in the defensive backfield. I think he could help in the return game as well on special teams, be it punt or kickoff return. But I think he gives you sort of that versatility in that, I think he's a nickel guy probably right off the bat, but could play outside depending on matchups against certain teams, and even could play some safety too. I think if he were on South Carolina's team right now, you'd probably see him very much in the mix at safety to try to help there. So, this is a kid that's going to come in, will probably almost immediately push for playing time and someone that's going to make an impact right off the bat. And I think is another example of how Muschamp, Travaris Robinson, both those guys have a great relationship with Jamyest, and both those guys are sort of doing everything they can to rebuild this roster, rebuild this defense, and upgrade the defensive backfield. And that's exactly what Jamyest does for them. This is a kid that has 40-plus offers, has been on the recruiting radar for a long, long time. And, even if you sort of look around the social media reaction to South Carolina landing this kid, you sort of see that people are taking notice of what Will Muschamp is doing. People are taking notice of what South Carolina is doing on the recruiting trail. And, that can only pay off in the long run, because I think we all know this is the point in the year where sort of a lot of the focus for both college coaches and high school kids sort of turns to on the field. Recruiting's always going on, but the main focus for these guys and these kids is on the field. But as the year goes on, as we come to the end of the college football season and the end of the high school season, and the coaching carousel starts to turn, then new guys have renewed interest in programs after their coaching changes. So I think if you're South Carolina, this momentum that they're building, this attention they're starting to get. This is a national kid with a national name. The announcement was on ESPN. I think that is the type of exposure that you can't buy. So for South Carolina, just a big pickup in a number of ways. He's a perfect fit for what Travaris Robinson is trying to do in the defensive backfield, and just another step. This is going to be a step-by-step process for South Carolina, but Jamyest Williams clearly a big step for the Gamecocks in their process of rebuilding this thing. And, the next step, I believe, you'd have to look ahead to September 11th with Ortre Smith making his much-anticipated announcement. I think that's something where South Carolina fans are clearly going to be tuned in, because it is a potential for a fifth straight 4-star commitment if you're looking at the Rivals rankings, which, I think is probably unheard of around here and definitely something South Carolina hasn't done in a long time, if ever. So, I think you look at the Rivals rankings, South Carolina now number 10 in the country. The pickup of Jamyest Williams and what Will Muschamp and staff are doing sort of across the board on the recruiting trail is something that fans of other schools and even prospects, which obviously is an even bigger deal, they're having to take notice of that. So, again, we'll have complete coverage of South Carolina recruiting on GamecockCentral.com. I hope you'll check us out. And, of course, it's game week, guys. So hard to believe. I'm going to hit y'all up with some more podcasts moving forward. Of course, we'll have our normal GCR Gamecock Central Radio podcast hits that Emerson Phillips does. We'll have those throughout the week. We'll have complete coverage not only of Jamyest Williams, but other South Carolina recruiting targets as this staff continues to chase guys and, leading into Ortre Smith's commitment. So, obviously, we want you to follow us. That's at Gamecock Central on Twitter. Mine is at Wes Mitchell GC on Twitter. This is Wes Mitchell for GamecockCentral.com. Y'all have a great weekend.